And do you believe a nation should have borders?
Hell yeah.
I think a nation without borders is not a nation.
I just drove past the Mexican border. I said, holy shit. How can it be such a stark difference between the soil right here in the United States on the other side?
Yeah.
I was like, looking, I was like, what are they doing over there?
It's unbelievable.
Because it's not like our land in the United States is magic, right? Like, what the fuck are these people doing over there? And I was like, holy shit, people actually live over there. You see the houses on the hills, and they're like the cardboard boxes. And I'm like, you look to the left, and you see all these. It's
a golf course in the past.
The reason why we have borders because we have different ideas.
And the reason people want to come this way
because of ideas
is because of that what that vision creates. Those ideas create a country where you're able to live the American dream like people like us have been able to. But I think that most Americans agree with that, actually. I think 80% of Americans agree with that. So, yes, there is this toxic fringe that has captured the Democratic Party who believes that the United States of America shouldn't exist, who hates our country and our founding ideals, and is trying to do everything in their power to cause it to cease to exist.
Right.
I mean, this thing that, 10 years ago, what Democrats were saying, including Biden and Mayorkas, the current Homeland Security Secretary, they were saying, we need a population change in the United States as a way of securing lasting electoral majorities. Today, if a conservative says that's what's happening, somehow that's a conspiracy theory, by the way.
Yeah. That's how they label everything.
That's right.
But Republican says.
But literally, Democrats were stating that as an electoral strategy 10 years ago, and that was an accepted strategy. So I won't use the label, right?
Right.
There's a label for this theory. Forget the theory. Forget the label for the theory, because then people lose their minds. Let's just talk about, is it or is it not true that the Democrats for the last part of the 10 to 20 years were engineering open border strategies that would change the composition of the electorate and easing voting rules to allow those illegals to participate in elections to change electoral outcomes? The answer is yes. How do you know? They said they were going to do it, and then they did it, and then it happened. So it's not that complicated.
That's a white conspiracy theory.
But that's a conspiracy theory. That's a conspiracy theory today. So I think that what we need to do ourselves is not fall into the trap of either applying our own labels or the labels that the left will give us, but just to talk about the actual truth. Is that what's happened in this country? And was that a stated strategy? Yes. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people. I was in New York City a couple of days ago and got together with, I would say something. I was in Manhattan a couple of days ago, visited my in-laws and saw some friends and family we haven't seen in a long time. I was supposed to be in New Hampshire, but I ended up dropping out of the race. We had some spare time, so we said, let's go see some friends and family. Mm-hmm. It was not the same New York City even that it was 8 years ago. And I don't mean in terms of just a crime and everything that's much worse. It is. And the illegal mass migration is much worse. But it's changed the mindset of a lot of people there, right? We were in the Upper West Side. This was a liberal bastion. Mm-hmm. We've got people looking at cars. I'm not kidding. I'm walking right on Central Park West. People are coming out of cars. They got people sticking their heads out of their cars while they're driving and saying, "We love you. I'm with you." I had doormen coming up to me saying, "You know what? I'm with Trump, but I love you. But don't tell people I'm with Trump. But I'm with Trump this time." Other people coming out, "I would have been with you. Now I'm with Trump." And what I wanted to tell all of them, a bunch of them were even doormen to the different buildings we were visited, would say, "Hush, hush, but don't tell anybody."
Yeah.
I was like, about 30 other people already told me that today, so you all can just say it out loud to each other.
Yeah.
It's different than what it was even 10 years ago. I lived in New York, even back in 10 years ago when I lived in New York, the political environment is different as a consequence of people seeing with their own eyes what those policies have done to their own cities.
Yeah, you got to learn the hard way.
You go to learn the hard way. You go to the south side of Chicago. I said I went earlier. People agree with me more on the border policies and on Ukraine than even many Republicans like Nikki Haley. And so this is an opportunity right now this year. I think this November we could have the good. I gave you the what I see as a dark, insidious plot playing out. As long as we stop that from happening, I think this could be a landslide for the country. And a landslide minus some shenanigans is still a win.
Right.
But I think that's going to be an event that could reunite our country like we haven't seen since 9/11.
Oh man, you getting my hopes up.
I believe that could happen this year. I really believe that is what's going to happen. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that is what happens. I'll give you my word on that. And I can't tell you which position or how or whatever, but whatever it is, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure this next 6 months culminating in November is a unifying event for this country like we haven't seen in 25 years.
I hope so. Vivek, what do you think? I'm looking at the touch on the border crisis a little bit. I'm seeing all this mass migration of. I mean, I don't really understand. I mean, they say what we're saying is a conspiracy theory, but they're actually overstepping our federal immigration laws. I mean, what are the Democrats' policies? Because these people that they're letting come to our country, I don't really understand the process of immigration here, but I don't get why you let people come in. They're unvetted. They're not coming through the front door. They're coming through the country illegally. What kind of documentation? How are we vetting these people? Do they even come back? And if they do come back, what's the percentage of people that show up for their court dates?
So we don't even have good answers to that question because those court dates are still like 5 years out.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. And so I think the percentage who come back for their court dates are going to be minuscule.
5 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just like a 5-year docket.
Nuts.
So I've been to Eagle Pass, Texas in this campaign. And there's a part of our border crisis nobody's talking about is the northern border, which we can touch on in a little bit. It's actually, people laugh when I bring this up, but it's not the Canadians. It's people with, actually, if you have really bad intentions to do bad things in this country, you're not going to anymore take the risk of coming through the southern border. You're going to go to Canada and come in through the northern border. We've had more illegal crossings last year at the northern border than the last 12 years combined. And you had enough fentanyl cross the northern border to kill 3 million Americans last year. So we'll put that to one side, but I don't want people to forget about that. But let's talk about the southern border. I've been to Eagle Pass, Texas. It's not like you have a bunch of illegals kind of coming over, sneaking across, chase scenes. How do you chase them and capture them? And, we just don't have enough Border Patrol able to do it. It's not like that. It's that our own Customs and Border Patrol is facilitating the mass migration. It's almost like it's like an assembly line, a mass process they have.
Right.
Which goes back to the fact that if you think about this as a technical issue, right? Like, let's say this is a technical challenge. Oh, is it a fence? Is it barbed wire? Is it a wall? Is it the aquatic barriers in the river? And then we have this fake debate about those tools. Any of those things work. The problem is not the technical issue. It's a problem of intention. The intention is to do exactly what's happening right now. You got to understand that it's not that we're failing to secure the border. It's that we're succeeding at making sure we don't have one. That's really what's happening, right? So what you're seeing at the southern border, if you think it is a failure of implementation, you're missing the point. It is the success of a plan that has been laid for about 20 years to change the composition of the U.S. electorate. And then once you understand that, you realize, well, that makes a lot of sense because remain in Mexico is still the policy, but why isn't Mayorkas or the DHS underneath him or the entire Biden administration enforcing remain in Mexico when that's the stated policy of the U.S.? It's because it's not that they're like forgetting to do it. It's not like, I forgot. It's that was actually the intention. So many people coming in right now, they'll get these forms and they'll say, here's the box you check. And they'll teach them how to do it. You check the asylum box.
Or they teach them.
Yeah. And let's say you don't know what it says because most of them don't know English. We'll just say, no. Here's a translated version or just here's the box you check. And then you check asylum. There's a whole process that then says, okay, I have to come back for my court date. Okay, when's my court date? 5 years. You think they're coming back? Nope. You're not showing back in 5 years because the whole game plan is 5 years from now. There'll be some plan for mass amnesty anyway, so they think they're going to be fine. So that's how the game is. So even today, and I favor militarizing the border, I favor aquatic barriers, I favor all of that. But even today, like tomorrow, let's say they just said, okay, if you check the box asylum, you have to provide some documented proof of political persecution. 80% of the people in this country could not come into this country, who are coming into the country right now, couldn't be coming in. And so
probably
that's not
more than that.
I mean, easily 80+%. And so, in the night before I went to the southern border, by the way, the night before at the very site where I was, apparently there's 2 men from Lebanon that had just stuck it. Let's just think about that.
Lebanon.
I don't think that if you came all the way from Lebanon to Mexico in the wake of what just happened on October 7th over there and escalating tensions in the Middle East, and you came from Lebanon and you're trying to cross the Rio Grande into the United States, I don't think there's a lot of good going on there. I think
shut off some red flags.
Yeah. Now, and then actually at that same site, you had actually had 2 Honduran men smuggling a woman from North Korea, think about that, into the United States. Now, to bring this full circle about checking the box of asylum, North Korea actually is one of those countries where if you're seeking political asylum in the U.S., you could just do it legally and they'd give it to you. But here's a woman from North Korea who's not seeking political asylum through the front door, but is being smuggled by 2 Honduran men who are seeking political asylum through the back door. That's weird.
That is.
I mean, that's really weird. These are people who are up to no good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so
that is about as weird as a woman standing up pissing.
Which apparently happens. You know,
that's a thing now. Hey, that's part of the deep state.
That's very
right?
transphobic of you.
Yeah,
it's very transphobic of you.
Yeah, that's. I'm sorry.
I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted at that level of transphobia.